Colorado may soon allow unlimited roommates. So most counties, most cities have their own ability to say, all right, you got a home, you can only have 2 roommates, 3 roommates. You can only have this many folks occupying. Well, Colorado is going to say, no, get rid of all that. Just let as many people live in a home as possible. No limitations at all. I'm sure this will work out fine. You know where we're headed with this? Let's put that together with the legal immigrants. And how does this all work out? Yep, that's what we're talking about right now. Let's get into it. Here we go. This is not our main article, but this is kind of some of the background. So I'm going to rip through a couple of articles here to get to our main one. Migrants overwhelming Mile High City and Mayor, Denver. Migrants have just basically, they're taking resources from tax-paying citizens. Given the callous title of cold-hearted after refusing to ban homeless encampments in cold temperatures, merciless Denver Mayor Mike Johnston is winning a new title called Cutthroat. With 40,000 migrants, almost 5% of the city's entire population, migrants arrived here from Venezuela and other places in the world in the last 12 months. Johnson has announced enormous cuts to city services and hours due to the burden of migrants and its stress on city resources. So we know this is happening, but this is happening at a greater level in Denver because they've just gone so far into that sanctuary city. So, and this is on top of 4,000 homeless people. So double that, probably 8,000. You've already got 8,000 homeless people in Denver that are competing for the same shelter system, right? And then the increase in single year, a surge of 116% of homelessness in Denver. I mean, things are not looking great. Adding it up, the homeless population grew 32% in the 12-month period in the end of 2023. At least 311 homeless people died in Denver last year, more than any other year. And then it goes on to say, yep, we're shutting down the DMV. We're not doing the gardening. We're not putting in the flowers. They're cutting from the city budget to fund all of this ridiculousness of the illegal immigrants. You got city workers impacted, downturns at the DMV, saving versus spending. It's insane what you've got going on there. And you've still got the same thing with the downtown commercial core that I just talked to you about. You've got a situation where your revenue it's not going the right way. It's going the wrong way. And then you've got another county nearby, Douglas County. I don't know if that's adjacent to Denver, but I think it's right there, right? Douglas County defies Colorado's sanctuary madness. So you've got one city, Denver, just going all in. And then you've got Douglas County saying, no, we're going to be responsible. They're basically putting a law in the books saying that ixnay on the illegal immigrants, don't drop them off here in buses. And there was one comment here that I saw that was pretty good. Where is that? I wanted to read that. Yeah. Here's somebody from Douglas County. We believe in leading with compassion, but it's not compassionate to bring migrants to a cold climate without the right resources and no place warm to stay. Keep that one in mind. No place warm to stay. Commissioner Abe Leiden said on Friday, we know why people want to come to America, and specifically Douglas County. Yet we have a responsibility to honor those who do so through proper channels, and we welcome those who do. And the author says, well said. Well, so you don't have enough money for your own homeless issue. You don't have enough money to house all the migrants. What do? Well, let's go with, on a state level, let's have unlimited roommates. Hey, that 2-bedroom apartment, that now has 16 illegals living in it. How do you think that'll work out? Yeah. Can you say large-scale shenanigans? Yeah. So Colorado on a state level is trying to do this. And how's that going to go? Right? How's that going to go? This was an article from Colorado Public Radio. So they do not bring up the issue of illegals at all. But you know damn well that's literally where this is going, right? Let's see. Let's come up with some ideas. We can put them in tents. Yeah, Colorado's pretty cold in the winter, right? So the whole tent thing isn't really going to work. All right, but we don't have enough for our own homeless people already. Okay, well, we're going to encourage them to, stay with constituents in the area. Well, that's not going to really work out. Let them rent an apartment and bring as many roommates in as humanly possible. Let's do that. Okay, all right. Large numbers of unrelated roommates could legally share homes in cities like Boulder and Fort Collins under a law progressing through the state legislature. Currently, dozens of cities in Colorado have occupancy limits that dictate how many unrelated people can live together. Most cities do, because you want to try and avoid exactly what they're doing here, which is let's just pull those restrictions off and we'll just have this free for all. We'll have one big living, commune living type situation. Should be fine. Should be okay. In Fort Collins, it's a maximum of 3 people who aren't family members. In Boulder, depending on where you live, it's 5. The proposal at the State House would strike down or force changes to those local laws. So a state law usurps the local city law. This year's House measure, HB 24-10007, has passed crucial votes in the Senate and House. Not shocking. The blue nature of Colorado. This is where you're going with that. And you're not going to hear much in the way of pushback on this. But you're going to hear why this is a genius, brilliant idea. Senator Julie Gonzalez, a Democratic sponsor of the measure, listed people the bill could help. 2 single parents coming together and raising their kids on their own. Really? We're going to go down that road. I've talked to people who live with their caretakers. Nobody is saying that you can't have a caretaker live with you. And you know what? If you have 3 people living in your place and it's only supposed to be 2 outside of your family, who's checking on this stuff? Nobody. That's not the issue. Right? We hear testimony from students who are trying to make ends meet, going together on an apartment. That's what this bill is all about. Students, those learning. Really? Is that what it's all about? This is what Gonzalez said. Okay. All right. Yeah. And I understand. Denver has got one of the most expensive housing markets, and there's none of it available, right? Just not available. She and other supporters, Gonzalez and other supporters, argue that occupancy limits are unfair and arbitrary, except for public safety purposes. Sharing a house or apartment with multiple roommates can help people afford housing near their work or school, she said. And countless people are already sharing housing, whether or not it's legally allowed in their city. This is going in a direction that is not good. There's a reason you cap the number of people. Is you've got a little thing called zoning. You've got a little thing called people per bedroom. You've got a little thing called people per bathroom. And those are not even really terms. It's just common sense, right? Where are you going to have all those people parked? You got 18 people in an apartment and they're just coming and going. I mean, doesn't that sound like fun? Doesn't that sound like a fun time? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Shenanigans for days, right? I mean, that's what all of these policies are setting up for. And then they'll come back, 4 years later and go, good Lord, that was a terrible idea. Oops. Why are all these things happening? What is going on? That's Governor Newsom and any of the other politicians. How did we get here? What are you guys doing about this? What is going on? Yeah, I love it when you hear that because you're like, you did that. That's on you. That's on you. So this kind of policy, let the parties begin, right? This should be called the House Party Bill. House Party Bill. Let's call it that. But the bill has faced the same criticism as other recent housing reforms. Opponents from both parties have argued that it will erode local control. Huh? You think so? You think it might have a little impact on that? Yeah. The ability of cities to set their own laws and policies to the detriment of current residents. Say you've got a Douglas County not willing to, play in the shenanigans of, hey, let's see how many millions of taxpayers' money we can spend on the illegals and then not spend them on, all the city services that we're having to cut because we can't afford all this ridiculousness. Occupancy limits can be especially contentious in college towns. I get that. You don't want to have 1 million college kids, living in an apartment unit. And that's what this is supposed to prevent. But you also don't want to have 1 million illegals living in an apartment complex, just doing their thing. No driver's license, possibly no job. I mean, just they're out there doing their thing. I'm not saying that all of them are bad, but that's clearly what you've got going on here, right? That's what you've got going on here. How can we get as many illegals into our communities as humanly possible and not have some of these, outliers like Douglas County say, no, now here's how we do it, state level. Of course, so if this thing goes through, of course, there'll be a lawsuit, right? Multiple lawsuits. So, hey, the Supreme Court said no go on Governor Greg Abbott down in Texas on his bill that he passed in the state that basically said we're going to take over border protection. That was there's a stay on that. That'll be worked through the court system. That's what I predicted would happen. There's no way Supreme Court is going to do that. But I think what they said is that they put a stay on the issue right now, meaning that bill won't take effect. Texas won't be able to arrest people and willy-nilly throw them in jail, although I wish they could. Texas as a state won't be able to do their own thing at the border. Still going to have to be federal policy. But what the Supreme Court basically said is we just haven't had enough time to issue a ruling here. So we're going to put this on hold for a while. Give us some more time to get what we're kind of thinking together so we can come up with a ruling. That's kind of where you sit. In Boulder, where there are more than 33,000 students attending CU Boulder, voters rejected the idea of abolishing occupancy limits in 2021 in a 52-48 vote. The state's going to control our property rights. Doesn't that bother you? It should. It really should, said Senator Joanne Guinal, Democrat from Fort Collins. She argued that large investment companies would swoop in to buy up single-family properties and start renting them to large groups of tenants. You know what? I don't think they will, because the issues of tearing the homes apart override that stream of income from a corporate standpoint. That's a nightmare, what you're proposing there. You're better off proposing because there's such a limited supply, you can handpick your tenants. And that's one thing that in the video I shot of the tenant protest or the landlord protest, whatever you want to call it, was the fact that if you've got a property and you want to try and help somebody out who has bad credit, or you want to try and help somebody out who's got an income stream that isn't exactly consistent, maybe they're a little bit down on their luck. You know what? With the inability to quickly evict folks in a lot of states and a lot of cities and a lot of areas, there's no incentive to rent to somebody who you're taking a chance on. You might as well rent to those with golden credit, a big, chunk of money to go first, last, and, damage deposit. You have, as a landlord, you have the ability to rent to whomever you want, because there's such a housing shortage crisis throughout all of the United States, not just in some of these communities. But we've been behind by millions and millions and millions of units, and we're just not getting there. And so I know I'm going on a little bit of a real estate rant here, but it's appropriate. And so some of the other things to tie in there is the National Association of Realtors just 418 million, 400 and something million they're going to pay out on a lawsuit. It's about commissions. And people are saying, well, now the prices are going to come down on the homes. Prices are going to drop. Most MLSs have already recognized the lawsuit and the outcome of that lawsuit by kind of predicting it. All right, if this goes sideways, this is what our policy is going to be. My MLS did that. And so nothing's really going to change much at all. But the overriding factor in today's residential real estate market is you don't have enough supply. So it almost doesn't matter what happens with real estate commissions. All right, real estate commissions are going to drop from 6%, maybe 5 to 6%, down to 2 to 3%. Well, you still don't have enough on the market. So every property that comes on is going to get bid up. And you've got a buyer pool that's been shrunk by interest rates, but there's still enough buyers out there where you've got multiple offer situations and everybody knows it. So whatever happens with these other little situations, you're not going to have large investment companies come in, swooping in and renting out to large groups of tenants. You're going to have some of that go on, but it's probably going to be more by the absolute slumlords. And that's what I think this state is looking to, all right, how can we get as many of these illegals into housing that we don't have to, directly pay for? Maybe we help out the main tenant and they have literally like the guy in New York City who had 80 people, somewhere between 72 and 80 people in the basement of his furniture shop in, was that Queens or New York City? Somewhere right there. It was New York City somewhere, but I had somebody tell me, Sean, it's not that. It's this borough. My New York City I'm a Seattle guy, right? West Coast, best coast. We're just going to leave it at that. Neighborhoods are just going to go downhill, she added. I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement. If you put this in place, neighborhoods are going to go downhill because you're just going to have a free-for-all. You're going to have a free-for-all, not only college kids, but anybody who can't necessarily afford what they need to. They're just going to go in these homes and these apartment complexes and it's what we're doing. And you can't stop us because it's the state law. John Goldman of the Daniels Westchester Neighborhood Association in Jefferson County said an overoccupied home had ruined a cul-de-sac in his neighborhood, leading other families to move out. Everybody's got an example of that one home that gets rented out, and there's 14 people living in it. I had a house, one of my rental properties down in Renton, before the Great Recession separated me from it. How's that for saying, was it a foreclosure or was it a short sale? I think we did a short sale on that one. I can't remember. Property just tanked, just awful. Going through a divorce. I lost a bunch of property, as you do. Live and let learn, right? But I had a situation where I didn't know the tenants had brought in 18 different of their family members, because whenever I'd go by during the day, they were all out at work. They're all out at work. And then the neighbors came over to talk to me and they were not pleased. They were not pleased. Hey, Sean, how many people did you lease out to? And I said, 4, a husband and wife or something like that, and their 2 kids. And, I got all these people and they're throwing these big parties and on the weekends, it's just this. And it's like, what a nightmare. So everybody's got that, home in their area or city, town, whatever community where somebody does that. They get 16 cars all in the driveway, various stages of being fixed or rebuilt or, whatever it is. That to me, that's the end result of this. The home has 7 mailboxes displaying 20 names, and the county says there's nothing they can do, he told lawmakers, because it's a civil deal, right? And you throw in one of these laws, let the shenanigans just take off. Let them just, yeah. It feels like this is all stuff to just break down society, doesn't it? Oh, we're doing this to make everybody feel better. It's going to be greater for the community. And all you can think of is, no, that's not. That's a terrible idea. Don't do it. Don't go down that road. In contrast, cooperatives like Mango Manor in Boulder. Where do you live? I live at Mango Manor. It's a cooperative. Yeah. Have tried to show the power of living together. It's a hard daily pill to swallow, seeing the incongruency of high housing need alongside so much empty space, said Alexis Hermes, a caregiver for adults with dementia and Alzheimer's in Boulder. I finally found a cooperative home that offers affordable housing, a car share system, access to public transportation, shared labor, communication structures, and shared spouses. I made up that last part. But isn't that what your mind always goes to? Hey, you're living in a commune. I saw in the 60s, they free love, right? I mean, so my spouse is your spouse is my spouse, and we all just live in this, unity and bonding of communal living. It just never really set in with me, right? Yeah, that's not really how things are supposed to go. But if you want to try that, that's your thing. Hermes said moving in with a dozen people was scary at first, but the change had saved her. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna do a little slow-mo on that. Hermes said moving in with a dozen people was scary at first. I don't know about you. I like my privacy. Yeah. I like being able to go home and, it's my house. Nobody's effed with it. It's going to, dozen people. I'm sure that works out fine. University students also testified in favor of the bill. So somebody, a third-year student at Colorado State University, said Fort Collins, U+2 laws had made the competition for rentals even more intense, guaranteeing she would move on after graduation. Maybe if you cap it at 4, 5 people, I don't know. What's reasonable? It sounds like they need a little bit more of a lifting of that cap, but taking that cap all the way off, that should be exciting, right? That could be an exciting time. Hey, what's going to happen? I don't know. Let's get out the popcorn. Watch this one. Watch this dumpster fire happen. So the college student goes on to say, I simply can't afford to live there with the rising housing costs without more than 2 roommates. All right. Okay. And college students, yeah, they've got the, that whole income issue, but you're talking about a situation where I think you're going to have a lot of working people. And by working people, I mean, whatever jobs that these illegals are going to be able to get into off the books, cash, you name it, whatever. These people are going to have money. They're going to have money, just not a ton of money. And these kind of situations, this is what we're looking at. This is exactly why this kind of thing is going in. But how much have we talked about that throughout this article? The big Zippo, the big goose egg? None. It's hard to say how much this will change if the bill passes. It'll just create a situation where this kind of, putting 1 million people into an apartment, putting 1 million people into a home is legal. And then it becomes accepted and it becomes okay. And it literally destroys the fabric of that community. And the individual, cities and towns aren't going to be able to do anything about it because it's Colorado state law. State always kind of, does that thing where this is the greatest thing for all of us, right? It could affect the laws of some 24 cities across Colorado, according to the Colorado Municipal League. In Boulder, the city has received about 150 complaints related to occupancy limits over 5 years. So this isn't a huge deal. Otherwise, you'd have thousands of complaints. This is a deal to allow 1 million people to occupy one residence, one apartment, one boarding house, whatever it is that you want. It's okay. It'll be fine. Yeah, it should be fine. It's like, at the beginning of the whole homeless thing, when it really started to ramp up, it's okay to let them live out there. They're just living their best lives. It's not a problem. Handful of years later, after, we've gone through what that looks like on broad scale. It just wasn't a great idea, but it's on the books, so we can't go back now. Under the new bill, cities would still be allowed to set occupancy limits based on demonstrated health and safety standards, such as International Building Code standards, fire code regulations, or Colorado Department of Public Health, and environmental wastewater and water quality standards. Do you think any of that is actually going to be observed? No. They're just going to go, look at the state law. Everybody, commune style, let's go. Bring your wife, bring your husband. It's going to be great. The measure is is part of a much bigger debate over individual and communal rights. They go on to start talking about land use reformers. Republicans and other opponents, on the other hand, say that property rights aren't just about one's own parcel of land. Absolutely. That is 100% correct. Because what you do with your parcel impacts others, right? Cities and neighborhoods should have the right to set standards, they say, even if it limits the actions of individuals. Absolutely. Because this whole thing with the state never makes any, genius decisions, right? For the most part, especially not in these big blue states. We know how that goes. Now in Texas, I'm going to say, yeah, there's been some pretty darn good decisions. That whole take it back from the federal, Customs and Border Protection, take back the, southwest border throughout Texas. That's a pretty good one. But what we're talking about here, it's got the flip effect. You got that big blue state going, it's the greatest thing ever. This should work out fine. So I don't think there's anything else kind of left here. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook and nonsense. This is a bill that has not gone into, discriminatory occupancy limits. Discriminatory, of course. Let's just throw the whole discriminatory thing in there, and then we'll call it racism and racist, and we'll just kind of go down that road. But, does it shock you? Is it surprising that Colorado is doing this? No. And if Colorado does this, other states are going to follow. Hey, bring those occupancy restrictions down. Get as many people in here as we can. State doesn't have to pay for it, and the state subsidizes a little bit of rent. They've got it covered. Hey, we can bring more migrants in, more illegals. Yeah. That's, to me, where this is kind of headed. That's where I kind of felt looking at this, because it doesn't justify 150 complaints in that one area. Doesn't justify, let's just rip off the current standard of only 2 people and 2 kids. There's a reason those things are in play. There's a reason those things have been, in communities forever. It's because you're only meant to have a certain amount with the resources you have, and the roadway system and the sewer system, utility system, and, all of that good stuff. It's regulated for a reason. And if you go down one of these willy-nilly, let's just see what the shenanigans we can come up with, you're going to find some. It's going to be pretty nutty. All right. The beauty is if this becomes a bill, we've got more content for the podcast, right? All right. So I'm going to end this one. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for being a part of this community. It's a community. We do premieres every morning, Monday through Friday. I am at most all of those. You can also check us out here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9:00, all the times that I indicate. Those are West Coast times, Seattle times. We've got live streams Tuesday and Thursday. Why did I say Monday? No idea. Tuesday and Thursday at 11:00 Seattle time, we're live streaming, and I'm doing 3 podcasts a live stream. And if you want to send me a message, if you want to chat with me, I look at comments every now and then. So thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye for now.